Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
I'm not going to listen to this. I'm not going to hear this. No. I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is a pal.
This is The Next Reel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Pete Wright, and that over there is Andy Nelson. Say hello to good people, Andy.
Hi-ho.
And you can find us at thenextreel.com, and you really should go do that, because you know that Andy,
He is a diligent little monkey, and what he does after every show is he goes and he writes up what we've talked about and puts them in this fancy show notes. And I take the links and we put them all together, and that's where the show notes live. And sometimes I think people, you go over to Facebook and you go over to 6 of you go over to Google Plus and Twitter, and you look at it there, but you miss a lot of the show notes and the links and details and the trailers we talk about. So head over to the next reel, and if you subscribe to the show, you can visit the website there and participate in the discussion there. It'd be really awesome. You can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes, and we do appreciate your kind comments and 5-star reviews. If you like the show, if you like what we've been doing for these last over 2 years, we've been doing this. If you appreciate what we do for how we ruin movies, spoil movies, we appreciate your comments accordingly. And you can find us where other social platforms, fine social platforms exist. And with that, Dr. Nelson, could you please give us an update on the listener's choice?
Yeah. That was possibly the worst drum roll I've ever heard. As Peter has a seizure, let me...
Do you know, I'm not actually sure what happened there. I think I may have thought drum roll and did drowning.
Something like that.
I think I just delivered drowning. Please tell the people what. Tell us about the listener's choice.
So, as listeners of the show know, we threw a challenge out there that anyone who commented on the show, we would throw those names in a hat and draw a name out, and that person would get to pick a movie for us to talk about on the show coming up. That will be our listener's choice. And the first one, we did the drawing, and the first listener's choice, the name picked was Steam Robot. So that is our dear friend, Stephen Smart. Yay! And congratulations, Stephen. We're going to be in touch with you, or get in touch with us, and we are going to coordinate something so that we can get a movie picked from you, and then we're going to watch it and talk about it.
Can't wait.
Very excited. I think we're doing that in just a couple of weeks from now. So
yeah.
So we'll get
be on the lookout
pretty quickly. Yes, indeed.
And okay, so now speaking of contests, how's the pony prize? How did you fare this week, Andy?
I did pretty good. I did better. Last week, we didn't bring up it last week's. Cameron L. Ryan got it. I swear, I don't know how she figured this out. I put a picture of an airplane landing, and she's like, "Oh, that's Die Hard." How? I have no idea. I have no idea how she figured that out, but she nailed it.
Fist with your toes. Fist with your toes.
So this week I tried digging a little deeper, and it took 3 tries. It took 3 images, and Robot Gremlin did get it after the 3rd try. Hope and Glory, the John Boorman film from the late 80s. And so congratulations, Robot Gremlin. You are again entered to win the Pony Prize.
Are you pulling these off of your... how far back in your collection are you digging? Like, when have you dug into your elusive Laserdisc collection?
Those elusive Laserdiscs all escaped. I have Area 1.
Are you what?
Okay,
what?
Maybe I have a couple. I think I kept a couple for posterity's sake.
Wow.
I know. No, I just kind of... I go all over the place to pick these movies. I kind of grab them from anywhere.
I like it. Yeah. Speaking of posterity, Steve made fun of me. Blog Whisperer Steve Sarmento made fun of me because of my bat can. I took pictures of it. I need to post them on the website because it's important that people are aware of just how perfect condition my bat can is.
It is important.
It's the only thing that I've kept. Everything else has gone pretty much digital, but my bat can is with me at all times. And I have a ship in a bottle. Those are the two things of history that I've kept. Ship in a bottle, bat can.
And this chair, but that's all.
All I need is this lamp. I'm so gearing up for the guilty pleasure bit. Oh, my...
I know, that's like months away. And
I know. I'm already thinking about
champing at the bit.
I've been thinking about it since we decided to do it months ago.
I know you keep telling me, I've got another one to add to the list.
My list is like 300 movies long.
That's a lot of guilt you have.
Terrible.
No,
You're guilty. What? You probably have 5 well-positioned films on your list.
Yeah, I have a struggle trying to figure out if my guilty pleasures are guilty enough. Do I have enough guilt for this? Is this guilt I share, or is this just me?
I think it's going to be really fantastic. Super fantastic.
It is going to be fun.
Can we, do we have things to talk about? Have you seen something this week that we need to talk about?
Well, I think what we should mention maybe is the Oscar nominations. Should we mention that? Are we going to
do that? Let's mention it as a pre-mention.
Yes. Pre-mention it because
it's out. The Oscars are out, and we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that the Oscar nominations came out. And I just want to know, first of all, just give me are you happy? Are you sad?
I'm happy for the most part. I think it was a year of a lot of really great projects, and so inevitably things are going to get left by the wayside. The thing that most I'm disappointed with as far as getting left by the wayside is Tom Hanks for Best Actor for Captain Phillips.
Yep.
Makes me sad.
I think was it?
But I don't know who I'd cut out. I don't know who I'd chop off that block.
It was. I actually want to bring this up because I think she's absolutely right. It was. Who was it who wrote this? Was it Amy on our Facebook page who left us a comment about the Captain Phillips snub? That was very frustrating, and I think it really highlights. There are a couple of other ones. I think. Mr. Banks was Emma Thompson was a miss, but it was Amy Shaw, our friend of the show, Amy Shaw, a bit surprised that Tom Hanks didn't get a nod for either of the 2 films he was in. The ending of Captain Phillips was a masterclass, some of his best work, and I think that's I think a lot of people are sharing that.
Yeah,
experience.
Absolutely.
So yes, the Oscar nominations came out. We talk about movies. It might seem a little odd we're not going to talk about movies, but we're making time with the film board. We got the film board this weekend with the the blog whisperer Steve Sarmento is going to be joining us. We got Tommy Handsome, Tom Metz, going to be joining us, and I'm not sure. There have been murmurs that we might have some voices from the past.
Yeah, the surly Chad Stoops.
He possibly
might be making an appearance.
We hope so.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, we're going to be talking Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. Was that my double voice?
No, you know what happened? You just jinxed it. You just jinxed it. It's now going to be crappy because it's probably that voice is all over it.
That's awesome.
So that's this weekend.
The power of my voice, ladies and gentlemen. Destroying films left and right.
You are single-handedly responsible for LA's slow and dismal dissolution from Hollywood industry. So here we have. You sent me a link that I found fantastic. Speaking of Oscars,
I think this is more fun to talk about than the Oscar nominations.
Totally. The random Oscar winner generator. This is from Time Magazine. Thank you, Time, or entertainment.time.com, and we'll put the link on Facebook in the show notes, where you can just click on this little button, and what did they do? Can you explain?
Time Magazine analyzed 242 Best Picture nominees and created an algorithm that basically generates storylines for movies that could potentially have been an Oscar-caliber nomination, like this one. In 1970s Florida, a widow, a baby, and a princess confront forgiveness, family tragedy, and illiteracy.
Now, what I love so much about it is that if you visit on the webpage, you can hover over the major components of the line and see what Oscar-winning film inspires those words. And so mine, for example, is In Suburbia, a psychotic war veteran and an Italian spy struggle with a dysfunctional family, fear, and police corruption. Now, of course, if you really look at that, those are just words strung together that mean nothing. But Suburbia was inspired by American Beauty, Psychotic by Toy Story 3, War Veteran by No Country for Old Men, Italian by The English Patient, Spy by A Beautiful Mind, Dysfunctional Family by Little Miss Sunshine, Fear, again, The English Patient, and Police Corruption, Goodfellas. And so you just keep refreshing it. Marriage, mathematics, and a relationship and a friendship mix in Boston for an African-American police officer, an orphan, and an Irish American.
This is great. In 1930s New York City, a Muslim doctor, an Indian professor, and a teacher confront justice, premarital sex, and class.
In a bar.
Oh, it's just silly.
It is. It's good fun. So
this is great for my screenwriting class. I should bring this up and say, okay, write something based on this.
I want a treatment in 3 days, based on in 20th century Houston, an American athlete and a coach cope with wealth, police corruption, and mob violence.
And mob violence
in Houston.
Yeah, it's
20th century is based on Gandhi. Houston is based on Ray.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so that's awesome, and everybody needs to go play with that.
Yeah, we'll throw the link in our show notes.
You go first. I've gone first many weeks in a row.
I am very excited about this movie that I'm going to be talking about. It's Dom Hemingway, Jude Law's new film that is coming out in April. It looks just ridiculous and over the top. And there's actually a few trailers. The one specifically that we're going to post on the site is one of the Red Band trailers. And I mean, it just looks, he is just such an over the top character. I have so much fun watching this trailer. It just makes me laugh to no end. If you watch one of the other ones, like the more recent one, you get a better sense of the story. He comes back in contact with his long-lost daughter. This is a guy who's been in prison for 12 years, and now he's out trying to figure out what he's doing with his life. So he reconnects with his daughter and tries to kind of figure out what's going on in his life and everything. It looks a lot more touching when you watch the regular Green Band trailer, but when you watch the Red Band, you get all the raucous, riotous nature of Jude Law, and it's just hilarious. I just laugh every time I watch it.
It looks great. And
plus it's got the wonderful Richard E. Grant in it, who I haven't seen in quite a while, but he's one of those actors that I just always loved, and he looks really funny in this.
El Machina del Oro. That's right, friends. The gold machine.
Oh, I think we're jumping into guilty pleasure territory here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
God forbid.
that was where I fell in love with Richard Grant the first time.
Yeah.
Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
Shut it, Andy.
I think for me it was L.A. Story. I always loved him in that one.
He was great in that film too. Not as good as Hudson Hawk. When does it come out? Did you say that already?
April. I believe it's April 4th. I don't have it right in front of me.
You know, the Red Band is interesting. The Red Band trailers, we'll post the Red Band on the website. And I think the Red Band is a better, well, obviously, I think it's a more kind of authentic depiction of the show, of the film. Yeah. You get a better sense, but you really get a better sense of see, I've already forgotten his name. Not Richard E. Grant. Jude Law's performance. I mean, he looks great. He looks great. He pulls off this like unfrozen caveman hipster role in a really great way. I can't wait to see it. That's all.
And some of the dialogue in the script, Richard Shepard wrote and directed this. The dialogue it just makes me laugh the way that they play some of these scenes out, like when he's confronting the guy who owes him money and he's wanting his ticker tape parade. I just can't stop laughing through that whole little monologue that he has about getting what is his due. So,
yeah, right.
And I love the poster for this too. Him sitting in that giant red chair with the giant photo of the baboon over his head. It's such a strange image.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yes. Yeah. So that's my trailer.
My trailer is also an April trailer, April 18th, 2014. This is Joel Cernow's Small Time, starring Dean Norris and Christopher Maloney. And I like this movie for a couple of reasons. Oh, and Bridget Moynihan, the lovely Bridget Moynihan. This movie looks interesting to me, first of all, because it's exercising some demons for me. Because it's about a kid's first sales job. As a used car salesman, he decides not to go to college and decides to sell used cars. And, that was my first job, was not selling. I was driving used cars from, Pueblo to Denver and through Colorado Springs for this used car dealership. And it was the kind where you just, spray chrome on a rusted bumper kind of a place. And so it feels right there. Like, it just feels so good to me. But the other reason I like this film is that I'm just wildly curious about Joel Cernow as a director of feature films.
Yeah.
We know of the Joel Cernow from 24, and pretty much all of 24. He's been a producer of 24 for a long, long time. He produced the Kennedys miniseries, wrote and produced and directed the Kennedys and 24, the India version. He is writer of 24 Live Another Day, which is in pre-production, due out later in 2014. And so, he's, spent a lot of time in this universe of 24. And this is, as far as I know, his first feature film, certainly his first written and directed feature film. It is definitely his first feature film direction, I think.
It's definitely his first theatrical. I mean, he has done some TV movies.
He's
24 movie, 24 Redemption. He did that.
He did. That's true. And he's been working. I mean, he's one of my very favorite shows. For the longest time, was The Equalizer. Remember that?
Oh yeah, way back in the
that
80s.
Was him in 85, 86.
Mm-hmm.
He was a supervising producer for that show, but anyway, he's been around a long time, and I'm just interested in seeing him kind of bring this story. This seems like such a modest story, or maybe a humble story, for this guy who's been so kind of ensconced in intrigue,
right,
for so many years.
It doesn't have at all any of the action thriller vibe at all. I mean, this is definitely it has that indie feel of this kid trying to figure out what to do with his life, joining his father selling used cars for a summer,
right? And
along with his crazy buddy, played by the wonderful Dean Norris.
Yeah, Dean Norris from Breaking Bad, most recently.
Yeah,
looks good. I'm really curious about this film. I think it's going to be interesting, and definitely check it out. Trailer on thenextreel.com.
I'm Chance, the gardener.
The gardener?
Yes. Since I was a child, I worked in this garden.
Then you really are a gardener?
Oh, yes.
May I ask your name?
Chance, the gardener.
Mr. Chauncey Gardiner. Are you related to Basil and Perdita Gardiner?
No, I'm not related to Basil and Perdita.
Gobbledygook.
You know, Chauncey, there's something about you. You don't play games with words to protect yourself.
Had no brains at all. The stuff with rice pudding between the ears.
On television, Mr. President, you look much smaller.
Dumb as a jackass.
As long as the roots are not severed, all is well, and all will be well in the garden. Yes, it is surprising.
And look at him now.
I can't write.
Well, I heard he speaks 8 languages.
I can't read. I like to watch TV.
All you gotta be is white in America to get whatever you want.
I understand.
We're doing B this evening. This is Being There, 1979 film directed by Hal Ashby, written by Jerzy Kosinski, who wrote the novella, really, I guess. Starring Peter Sellers, Shirley MacLaine, Melvin Douglas. A well-regarded film, this Being There.
Yes, indeed. It definitely was. And it's a film that I think definitely holds up. I mean, it really is a film of its time. You really feel the 70s in this film. But even with that in the film, it still really holds up. And it just feels, in a way, timeless. Kind of like Network does, which another film that, interestingly, kind of deals with the media, but also feels like something that still is relatable to today.
You know, I had the same sort of reaction that this film is kind of the genetic precursor of films like Big and The Truman Show. But you know, Network is obviously a key sibling. What I like so much about this movie really isn't in the movie itself. It's in you know, Peter Sellers' portrayal of this film. In this film as Chance the Gardener, and it is because, you know, you use the word timeless. I think this film is dated. You know, you feel the 70s in it, but not in Chance the Gardener.
Yeah,
and he is so rock solid from start to finish in this film that he is. You just can't stop looking at him. You can't stop looking at him. It's amazing. He's great.
Peter Sellers, he really, he read this book and he pursued Jerzy Kosinski very heavily to get this role. In fact, he wrote Kosinski a telegram, sent it to him and said, "Available in my garden or outside of it, see Gardiner," and gave him a phone number. And then when Kosinski called, it was Peter Sellers. And he said, "This character is created for me to play on the screen. Since my heart attack in 1964, my life has been dictated by Chance. Most actors want to play Othello, but all I've really wanted to play is Chance the Gardener." Really interesting that this is the role that he really connected with. And if you look at his career, I mean, it was a lot of ups and downs and just wild comedies and stuff. But this film is the one that, to me, always stands out as the highlight of his career. I mean, I definitely enjoy some of his Pink Panther movies and just some of the wacky comedies that he was in. But this is the one for me that will always be the standout Peter Sellers film. I
prefer to think of Being There as sort of his statement on the craft.
Mm-hmm.
And it's his statement on the craft in the way he removes everything for which he is otherwise known as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
This is Peter Sellers' tabula rasa, you know, and I really appreciate that. This is sort of Bill Murray in Lost in Translation. This is that stripping back of all the artifice. And he, you know, Peter Sellers was. This was a guy known for artifice, from Strangelove to, you know, Fu Manchu to Pink Panther to, I mean, this was what he was known for, and I think Being There is, you know, it's a funny film. It starts with this sort of tale of innocence. You know, we have this Chance the Gardener who is. You know, I would normally use the word deeply shaken by the loss of his boss, who's worked for all his life. He was sort of, you know, raised by when his boss, this wealthy industrialist, dies, and they close the house for which Chance was the sole gardener. There is no indication that he was actually deeply shaken by this at all. He moves on and is just sort of propelled through life in a really kind of organic fashion through, you know, kind of a man out of time. Yeah.
And interesting that also regarding the old man that he works for, it's never really clear. I mean, was it his father? Who is this guy? I mean, He says he's been doing this, taking care of the garden since he was a boy. So it's very vague. And I like that they never really feel the need to clarify that. It's always just kind of this mystery as to his relationship with the old man and how long he's really been there. But clearly it's been a long time where, he gets to pick through the old man's clothes, to where he, he's always getting these gifts of televisions that the old man is always giving him. It feels like definitely more of kind of a father-son relationship rather than kind of what he would do for an employee. But knowing kind of the nature of Chance and kind of this way that he thinks, and the way that, he's just a much slower sort of character. Maybe the boss was just a boss and a kind soul taking pity on him. I mean, you never really know, and I like that.
I do too. It's like the first kind of, I don't know, the first third of the film it's like watching a painting, kind of unroll or unravel, kind of reveal itself, and so he's propelled. Chance the gardener, he is propelled through this now new universe. It's sort of the experience I get when I take my indoor cats, out to the garage. They it's just this sort of new world that he's kind of getting used to, and he gets to you start seeing what it looks like when this innocence is confronted by race, and his mistaken identity ends up sort of becoming the eponymous direction of the rest of the film, as he is propelled by chance into these situations that lead him all the way to becoming an advisor to another rich industrialist and meeting the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And then the film, thanks to Shirley MacLaine, MacLaine, becomes a vaudevillian sex romp.
Yes, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that soon.
Yeah.
Speaking what you said earlier about his the way that he reacts to the old man's death, I did find it very interesting this time watching how, I mean, he does have that quiet moment once, like he clearly gets it, like when Louise tells him, he doesn't really have much of a reaction other than to kind of turn back to the TV and watch the TV. It just seems like things take a little longer to sink in, because then she leaves and then we see him kind of go up and see the old man's body lying in the bed. He kind of, puts his hand on his head, and then he just sits on the bed for a minute and has kind of a quiet moment before he realizes what it is that he's going to have to do. He packs his bag and he leaves. That's a very interesting moment that he has there. Likewise, I think it's interesting that later in the film, when Rand dies, that's the moment when we really see him having a much more emotional reaction. And we actually, as he's talking to the doctor, wonderfully played by Richard Dysart, he actually has tears in his eyes at that point. And it's like there's a better sense of recognition of what's going on there. And again, we don't know the relationship of him with the old man, but it seems like there was another form of that relationship that had been kindled with Rand, the industrialist. And I like that, how again, when Rand dies, you really get that emotional moment from him, and we get that sense of loss from him.
And that's one of the things that I have a hard time sort of rationalizing, right? Is that sense of emotional journey of Chance over the course of these these 2 hours, that he starts, I think his reaction to the loss of his first boss, mm-hmm. It's very much to me reads as if he is responding the way one of his favorite characters on the television would respond.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of manufactured. And I think you're right. Over the course of the film, by the time we hit Rand's death, I do see a hint of a broadened reaction, and I feel like he is, he's more present. He has grown as a result of these new interactions that he's had with these new people in his life, and I like the way that's played. I wonder, what's your thought on his attachment to the television over the course of the film, and its relationship to him being able to, or to the way he is portrayed as, heavy air quotes here, growing.
Well, that's interesting, because I think I don't think that the protagonist of your story always needs to be the one that is growing.
No,
I think your protagonist is always going to, or I take that back. I think your protagonist will always grow in some way, but they're not necessarily always changing. There can be a level of growth, a level of increased understanding in their world. But I think in the case of this film, I think Chance is changing those around him, and particularly the doctor, who I think is the one who really kind of has his eyes open to everything that's going on, right? And I think Chance does grow. I mean, for him, it really is all about finding a place to live to a certain extent. But I think, I don't know, I think he finds a sense of further development with real people. And I mean, it's not that the old man and Louise weren't real people. It's just we don't know the relationship, but based on the fact that Louise was basically the maid at the house, and she did kind of help take care of him, but it was a very different sort of relationship than what he's now come to find with Shirley MacLaine and Rand and Jack Warden, the president, and everyone else in the world who, in a way, they're really kind of listening to him now, and he's just kind of spouting stuff about gardening, and it's very vague, and it's interesting stuff that becomes meaningful, even though it's very meaningless. It is exactly what TV, in a way, it's all about. It's all about these sound bites, and it's about getting these words out that can be read to mean something great, but in reality, it's just kind of fluff, and that's really what he becomes good at because of watching so much TV. I think is he speaks about gardening, and he speaks in just little sound bites, and it becomes, people take that for what they need to take it as when he's talking to Jack Warden, the president, about, the garden. There will be hard times, but as long as the roots are untouched and remain solid, or whatever, I can't remember he says, and there will come growth in the spring. And he starts saying these just interesting things that everybody starts interpreting as these grandiose ideas. And I think that's the interesting thing about him and the nature of TV and the nature of media is he, in a sense, is kind of this cipher speaking about gardening in the language of sound bites that he's picked up from TV, and it enables everybody to interpret it for what they need it to mean.
But don't you think, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I really do. And I also agree that there is... we don't need the protagonist to be the one who grows. And I think that is, Chance's role is one that is to educate through kind of blind innocence. This world around him that has gone so complex and political and cynical. I mean, what we see with this, what becomes, thankfully, for the drama of the film itself, thankfully, it becomes an averted witch hunt. But we see them go down this road of being super cynical about Chance. He doesn't have a background, so there must be something wrong. We can't find anything out about him, so there must be something he's hiding. And that's true. But at the same time, at this very personal level with Chance, when you bring up the way we see him respond to the death of his new boss, mm-hmm. In that brief instance, right? We see a reflection of that world on him. And I think it's a very special reflection when you see the tears in his eyes and you see that moment that maybe here's this middle-aged guy who, has never grown up, begin to grow. Yeah. And to learn those lessons that he needed to learn through his interactions with these people, as oblivious as they are, with the exception of Dr. Allensby. What's that his name?
Yeah, Allenby, right.
Allenby.
I think that is a very smart point about that, and how through these interactions and through becoming kind of a voice for the people, it has kind of put him in a situation where he's now kind of stepping out of the world that he's always lived in. Just like we've seen him physically step out, now he's mentally stepping out. And now when Rand dies, it does affect him in a way that when the old man dies, didn't. And perhaps that is why, when he goes to Rand's funeral, he walks away and it's like he's now kind of achieved a little more enlightenment, which kind of could potentially lead to that last moment that we see of Chance where he, walks across the water.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess, there you go. You brought it up.
You already said that we spoil things, so I'm not holding back.
La, 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 la. Tell me what you think about it.
I think it's great.
La, 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 la. Did you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, here's the thing. I want to. Well, first of all, definitely, I want to talk about that last sequence because I think it's really important to the film. Because what we see is, in fact, after that brief flash of awareness and wisdom from Chance in the moment of the passing, the moment of awareness when Dr. Allenby becomes aware that Chance is who he said he was all along, that there was no conspiracy, he was not lying at any point. It was a complete case of mistaken messaging, mistaken identity, everything. Mm-hmm. And you get that sort of aha moment from him. And then we go back to Chance being Chance. And he is the same guy we've seen. That's that bit of consistency of Peter Sellers playing it just rock solid straight through the film. It's the funeral. The political machinations are still going on at the funeral as the pallbearers are discussing, the next presidential candidate, and we see Chance.
The next presidential candidate potentially being Chance.
Potentially being Chance, yes. And he there's a branch has fallen by the side of this river. Chance is going on a walk during the funeral proceeding. And a branch has fallen on a sapling, and he lifts up the branch and treats the sapling because, here he is, he's a gardener. And then he goes and he walks straight across the water on the surface of the water. And there is no evidence of any submerged pier. There is no, there's no sign that it's anything other than,
Chance walking
on water. What does that mean?
I think it can be read in a lot of different ways. I mean, he has gained enlightenment and now is kind of transcended to a higher level or something. Or perhaps he has been transformed by society into something that they needed to be the one that they want to transform them. Kind of like a Jesus figure who is somebody that speaks truths that they are able to take away and do something with. I mean, clearly that's kind of the case of what's happened here is as soon as Shirley MacLaine and her driver first injure him, from that point forward, it's just constant, misreadings of everything that he says and everything that he does as something that's much greater, basically. I think that... I don't know. It's one of those interesting endings. They don't really come out and say what it's about, but I mean, I think that's what it is basically he has become this kind of savior of the people, somebody who can speak and they can take those words and find what they need to in those words. And again, because of the nature of him coming from the world of media, watching TV all his life, he speaks in sound bites, which, again, are meaningful and meaningless at the same time.
He is, and I think, as you say, meaningful and meaningless at the same time. I think the same, sentiment can be applied to this last sequence.
Oh yeah, that too, and I think in a way that's a reflection upon us too, as the audience.
Yeah, it really is, and it becomes sort of a hammer over the head kind of delivery of the allegory that has been hinted at through the course of the film, and particularly the second half of the film. Even it is buried in this what becomes kind of a political, very sort of subtle and gentle political satire throughout most of the film. I think it is very even-handed and sort of delightfully dry, witty. dry wit. So as he's walking across this water, he bends down and he sticks his umbrella into the water, and you see it go all the way through the surface, all the way down. So it's literally him just walking on the water, and it's such a wonderful play back to the cartoons that he's watching, the Wile E. Coyote cartoons. It's his innocence, the weight of his innocence it's so light that he literally floats on water, that he has not succumbed to the cynicism of the world around him, even as in his experience of it. Therefore, he does not know that he's not supposed to be able to walk on water.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful message. Now, what comes after that, I would love you to share your thoughts on.
Well, okay, I guess we're moving into that territory now. Interestingly, when you cast Peter Sellers in a film like this, where he's playing this really unique character that is really straight and just says things almost with this naive innocence and just straightforward truthfulness, you're going to get a lot of great footage to use. You're also going to get, when it's Peter Sellers, a lot of really funny footage to use. And they chose to basically kind of over the credits do a gag reel of a lot of the funny bits that he does. And it's funny. I definitely think that it's funny. My problem is that it really just takes me out of the movie right away. And I really like the place where I'm at the end of the movie. And don't get me wrong, I love watching those bits. I just wish it was like a special feature. And actually on the Blu-ray, they actually have a whole special feature of a whole bunch more of those things, which are really fun to watch. But I don't know, it really just pulls me out of it. And Peter Sellers, actually, when he heard that Hal Ashby was going to do that, because Hal saw these outtakes and thought it was hilarious and wanted to put them in over the end credits. And this film opened at the Cannes Film Festival, and Peter really pushed to get them pulled out of the end credits. He felt that it just kind of ruined the tone of the film, and he could never get them to agree, and they left it in there. And, some people say that alone is the thing that cost him the Oscar that year, because his performance is so great. But then you see that goofiness at the end and you realize, oh, it's just an act. And it kind of takes you out of it. And, that's their... I don't know how people voted for the Oscars, but when you watch this performance next to Dustin Hoffman in Kramer versus Kramer, I don't know. I think I would probably go with Peter Sellers.
To the best of my memory, there is no gag reel at the end of Kramer versus Kramer.
I don't believe there is.
Well, and to that point, it's not a complete reel, right? It's not like a Will Ferrell reel. It is one. It's a repeated take of one scene that eventually was shortened in the actual film because of the trouble that he had getting it out. And it's a scene of him recalling the gang.
Right. The message
to Raphael. Right.
Right.
And it's hysterical seeing. Now I don't want to try to put thoughts in to armchair Hal Ashby. I'd be wildly out of place, but I'll tell you why I like it. And I think I think there's certainly room to argue this. But the allegory at the end of him walking across the water is a surprise. Right? It is, can you imagine Forrest Gump running across the water at the end of Forrest Gump? You know what I mean? Like it takes you a little bit out of the film, like out of the innocence of the film, and sort of puts this character in a much higher plane than we had experienced. And it becomes very heavy very, very quickly with this visual allusion to the Savior, right?
Right.
And I think bringing back this, this particular gag alleviates some of the pressure that otherwise builds up really quickly. It sort of releases that valve and says, you know what, this was, to me, it was just a reminder that, let's not take it to a cynical place. Let's not take it to a judgmental place. Let's just laugh with Peter and have a good time at this thing. He did a great job, and let's relax a little bit. And I found it really very powerful, a powerful mixture of kind of the salt and the sweet.
Well, and to that point, I mean, I will give you that when you're looking at the meaning of the film and the context of all of the meaning that comes from everything that Chance says, whether there is meaning to it or whether it's meaningless Gardiner fluff, in a way that by adding the gag reel at the end, it does play into that as well. If you're taking like the message of the ending to have this high and mighty meaning as to what Chance really is, and then by adding a gag reel there, it does kind of make you step back and go, oh, well, maybe I'm reading too much into this.
Yeah, that was my sense too, because to your point, all of his stuff about gardening and sowing and reaping, as soon as he walks on water, that stuff has, it connects in a very new way.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, I like it. I just think personally, if I would remember as soon as that ends and we hear that last line, "Life is a state of mind," I got to hit my pause button to like have a few moments to just ponder, and then I can watch the gag reel.
Now, didn't I read at some point that there is a release out there where there is no gag reel? It actually goes to TV fuzz.
Yes, I believe when they did that in the initial video version, I think when they first released it on VHS, I believe that's what they changed it to. Actually, as I'm looking at it, when it opened soon after in Australia in late May 1980, the entire end credits were removed from all prints. That was another option that they did, leading to a deafening thud on the soundtrack after the film's final line. And then they were all replaced with the white noise end credits. So, it seems like they've kind of gone back and forth with their preference for how this movie is ending. And obviously now the version that's out there it goes back to Chance and his or Peter Sellers and breaking character, cracking up on set. So,
yeah, that's the version I got.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about people. I mean, we talked about Peter Sellers, but who else sticks out for you?
Well, Melvyn Douglas, I think, is the other big one in this film for me. I just absolutely love him as the old man, as Benjamin Rand. I think that the relationship between the two of them is so interesting, and I love the way that he plays it. He won an Oscar for this. Interestingly, Melvyn Douglas was, I guess he was so offended by the idea of being nominated opposite the kid in Kramer versus Kramer, played by Justin Henry, that he refused to show up to the Oscars because he thought it was such a joke that he would be that this kid would be nominated opposite him. And so he didn't show up, and of course he won. He was, I guess, the only one who was not there, and he won. So, he's just one of those great actors who's been around forever. I mean, he was, I think, a stage actor, and then discovered by Gloria Swanson and brought into the world of film. And he's just one of those guys who made a great name for himself in film, and man, he has been around the block. I think he was nominated for one other Oscar he won one other Oscar for HUD back in 1964, another great film. And just a man who's been around the block, and I think he brings a lot to this character, and I love the way he plays opposite Peter Sellers, and even Jack Warden, the way he plays opposite the President of the United States, I think is there's something about that relationship there, and he feels so right in the part. I think he definitely deserves all the kudos that he got for it.
I agree with you, and there's something about his portrayal and the way he sort of translates the universe such that Chance the gardener becomes Chauncey Gardiner. It's funny that he, I get the sense that, Douglas's Rand deep down really does understand, Chance the Gardener. He understands what he's saying, and he has a connection and sort of and yet it's his confidence in his awareness of who Chance the Gardener is that allows other people, or that sort of allows that appreciation for Chance to spread like a virus.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's great.
I think he really is the one who, in a sense, becomes kind of the initial translator for Chance, because it's when Chance first meets the president, where when he starts kind of spouting this Gardner talk, the president just looks at him like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
And it takes Benjamin a moment to go, I think what our smart friend is saying is blah, 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 and really kind of translating it for him, that all of a sudden that becomes something meaningful to the president. And then he's able to take everything that Chance says as wisdom.
Right. Yeah, I think that ends up being an interesting conversation, that three-way conversation, where Chance just, doesn't know when to let go of the hands. First of all, he grabs both of the hands in an over-familiar fashion, and then he doesn't know when to let them go. And it's just this wonderful thing that suddenly, to the president, feels like a confidence he doesn't get. Mm-hmm. And ends up, quoting him in his major economic speech.
Uh-huh. And then plaguing the president. I mean, he then can't stop, dwelling on everything having to do with Chance. Who is this guy? Why is he so intelligent? Should I be worried? Should I not? And it kind of kills his libido. And
right. We have this sexual dysfunction
completely
bit.
Impotent.
Yeah, right. It's fantastic that Chance renders the president of the United States impotent.
Yeah. Something to be said for the power of the simple man, I guess.
Right. Right. And the lovely Shirley MacLaine.
Ah, yes, playing Eve, another interesting name to tie into this whole thing. Eve. I think she's great in this part, although I always struggle through her masturbation scene. It always hits me. I don't know. Maybe it's the way she's giggling through the whole thing. I'm like, gosh, is this so awkward? Or
it's, what, it is awkward that she's doing it with her hand on his leg, and then he gets up to do yoga.
Yeah.
Like to do TV yoga, and she's just giggling and saying, "Where did you go?" And it's too much. It's a wonderful, it's a hysterical sequence, but I think you're right. There's room for discomfort, I think. She does it. She just is great. For me, it's one of the best lines in the film, and I think it's because of the irony of it being Shirley MacLaine delivering it when she says, that, Chauncey, there's something you need to know about me. I'm a little shy. That has me howling every time. But the sequence in particular that I love so much is when she interrupts his breakfast in bed.
Uh-huh.
And throws herself at him, all over him. And he doesn't respond because he doesn't know how to. And, she moves his plate out of the way, takes his napkin off, and then proceeds to just kiss him and rub all over his face and his head in a really weird way. And then says, I'm so grateful for your strength. I could just really open up to you. He says, I'm glad you didn't open up to me, Eve. It's really I think her portrayal of this sort of incredibly sexually frustrated, because she is as she is married to Ben, this significantly older man who's dying, and they clearly don't have a physical relationship anymore, and so she's dealing with the repression of being that the sexual repression of their relationship, and has been given permission essentially from Ben. I think their dynamic is really interesting to watch.
It is, and that's something about the relationship that always strikes me, is how honest they are with each other, and just those two actors, I think, really carry all of that so well. And I can really get a good sense of this awkward relationship that is full of love and respect for each other, even if there's not a physical sense in there,
I haven't gone on my restraint bender in a while. But I think, you know, when I think of just the construction of this film, this is another one of those films that is really a case study in restraint, because you know that if this film had been written today, or if there was a remake, an about last night style remake of Being There, it would these are the areas that would be magnified, right? First of all, there would be much more drama and intrigue around the threesome of Chauncey and Ben, and the what would be construed as infidelity of Eve.
Mm-hmm.
There would be much more a critical view of Chauncey, and there would be much more Jack Ryan style intrigue around him not having a history.
Right.
Exactly. There would likely have been a missile launch at some point. After the dinner with the Russians, a missile would be launched.
Oh, that's really going crazy. Wow.
Tell me you don't agree. This is an exercise in restraint. You are a screenwriter, son. Tell me that I'm not wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's restrained in the right ways, and like you said, yes, they start going down that hole of who is this guy, where did he come from, why can't we find anything? It's there, but it's not something that becomes something that they dwell on. We get a little bit of it. They're concerned, but not to the point where they're overly worried, and we move past it. I love the way that that's structured. You don't have to worry about that.
Indeed. All right, who else do you want to talk about?
I love Jack Warden. I think we talked about him in All the President's Men.
Mm-hmm.
I've just always loved him, and Crazy Like a Fox. I can't ever get that out of my head when I see the guy.
Yeah, he's a great president too. He
really
plays the role
is
very well. Our man Richard Dysart.
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing that I like about what Dysart brings to the role is this quiet sensibility of Dr. Allenby. And even though he never really buys into this misunderstanding of Chance the Gardiner being Chauncey Gardiner, I mean, he always feels like there's something amiss, and he's kind of the one whose eyes are more open, or I should say he's just not as blinded by the wisdom of Chance as everyone else is, and investigates. But it's also quiet, and it's never done in a way like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and I'm going to make things right. It's always just this quiet thing. And even when he does finally realize the truth, it's really just almost like a self-satisfaction sort of thing. He knows it. He talks to David Clennon, the lawyer, who had worked with him actually on The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have that great conversation in the bar where they realize the truth about who Chance is. But then it's like he says, okay, nobody can know about this. Just basically keep it hush hush. And he just goes on kind of accepting it for what it is. And I think, yes, he now knows the truth, but because of what Chance has come to mean to everybody else, I think he is just going to kind of turn a blind eye to it and let it be. And there's something about that quiet presence that he plays as Dr. Allenby that I really, really like in this film.
I absolutely agree, and I think it makes me happy every time he comes on screen, because he is, to me, the logical balance of the otherwise sort of I'm going to say faith-based, but I don't mean it that way. You take everything else in the film, you're taking this sort of bit of just sort of the innocence, you're taking on faith that this is how the story is supposed to be put together. And I think what Dysart brings is a gentle challenge to the storyline, and I really appreciate that. This is where we start to get to the L.A. Law, Richard Dysart. This is that sort of the gentle wisdom and the gentle challenge that I find so fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I feel like we have to talk about Governor Gatling. James Noble.
James Noble.
Uh-huh. Governor Gatling on Benson.
That's
what?
Right. That's right.
What?
That's right. I couldn't remember his name on Benson, but yeah, absolutely.
That was a surprise. I'd forgotten he was in there. It's always funny when I see him not being goofy.
he is
so
pretty
serious.
straightforward in this, but yeah.
What was the butler's name? There were so many of these great sequences between Peter Sellers and the butler, who I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was, in the elevator in particular.
Yeah, that's one of the great moments is that little bit where where he starts laughing in the elevator. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to make another joke about the elevator.
one of your great jokes. Fantastic.
Yeah,
okay, so talk to me about Hal Ashby.
Hal is a director. I mean, every time I see pictures of him, he always just looks like the ultimate hippie. He's just got crazy long hair, big bushy beard, and he's just one of those guys. But he's a director who really directed a number of films that were really, in a way, kind of just about human nature. And I really enjoy watching his films. He did win an Oscar for editing. He started as an editor. He won an Oscar for In the Heat of the Night. He actually, I think, was an editor on. It's escaping me right now, but it's on the TV in this. It's what is it? It's the Steve McQueen movie that was remade with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, with the hats?
Yeah, what's that called?
For crying out loud.
I know. Anyway, he
good.
edited that, and that movie is playing in the background. I got to look it up because I'm going to just shame on me for not remembering it. But anyway, that's playing in the background when she's having her masturbation scene. Right. I think it's when he kisses her, when he kind of goes crazy kissing her and all of that.
And then stops.
That's the movie that he's watching. Thomas Crown Affair.
Thomas Crown Affair. Yeah, you should be embarrassed by that.
I am embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
But and then he moved into directing in 1970 and just created a number of films that really stand out as solid character films in the 70s that to me always represent just key elements of 70s cinema, like Harold and Maude, The Last Detail, Shampoo, Bound for Glory, Coming Home and Being There. Those films that he did in the 70s are the ones that have always stood out as like the Hal Ashby films. He went on to continue directing in the 80s, but I believe he ended up having I can't remember if it was an alcohol problem, something that was going on with him, and his films, the quality kind of suffered a little bit as he went into the 80s, and it kind of just didn't end up, the stuff that he ended up making a little later just was not that great. Yeah, he became dependent on drugs and reclusive lifestyle, and he ended up dying late in the 80s and never really, I don't think he ever quite got his feet back on the ground to make any great films again that he was doing in the 70s.
This is you look at his filmography, it's like it's like a switch was flipped.
Yeah.
Between Being There and Secondhand Hearts, where it just stopped being noticed.
Yeah, right. It just became something that was, Secondhand Hearts just sounds just like a really bad comedy.
Well, and 1982, Looking to Get Out. Anything with the title that actually has the abbreviated ing with an apostrophe is it's already circumspect.
I think the only one of his films that I saw in the 80s was The Slugger's Wife, which was, is Neil Simon. It should have been good by all accounts, but it was horrible. I really just had such a hard time with that. Just kind of a baseball comedy that just didn't work at all for me. It was a pretty terrible film, and I think that was his last, or one. I guess not quite his last film. He did 8 Million Ways to Die after that, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like he had a great run in the 70s, and that's what I like to remember Hal Ashby for.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Yes. Let's.
And the fabulous script by Jerzy Kosinski, uncredited, Robert C. Jones.
Interestingly, I guess there is this story from 1932. It's a Polish best-selling novel by, I don't know how you pronounce the name, but I'm going to say Tadeusz Dolega-Mostowicz, called The Career of Nicodemus Dyzma. This was a story written in Poland. It was very popular, and it was made actually into a film in Poland in the 50s. This is a story of a small-town man who comes to the capital and accidentally somehow gets invited to this party where he happens to have a tux. And so everybody somehow misidentifies him as somebody famous, and he ends up, people. It's the same story, essentially, of Chance the Gardener. And this Nicodemus character was, I guess, a very kind of popular character in Poland as an archetype of the crude opportunist who makes his upwardly mobile way by dint of fortuitous connections. And there was quite a controversy when Jerzy Kosinski published the novel being there, because a lot of people said it sounded a lot like this story of Nicodemus Dyzma. And I believe people accused Kosinski of plagiarizing and just creating all these problems for him. And I don't know what ever ended up coming of that, since it was a Polish film or a Polish story, and he had written this here. But I don't know I don't know how it ended up affecting Kosinski, but I know there was a lot of people talking about how he was a plagiarist because of it.
Dark.
That's
dark.
It is. It definitely is.
Let's see, film music by Johnny Mandel. I'm sure you have the entire Johnny Mandel cinematographic collection in your.
I don't quite, but his themes in this, he has some nice themes. I do like them. They're very simple, very just kind of easy themes to kind of go along with.
No, I absolutely agree. I don't find the music offensive at all. I think it fits very well with the tone of the film.
The only music that really stands out for me, I mean, I think Mandel's score in this works well in the context of the film. The music that really always stands out for me is the disco version of "Thus Spake Zarathustra."
Yes,
that plays when he first leaves the house. Wow, That is something for the ages.
Talk about setting the tone. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Anybody else on your list you want to cover before we move on?
I think the last one is Caleb Deschanel as the cinematographer. He's definitely somebody who's been around for a very long time, still actively working in the business. Winter's Tale, a movie that's coming out next month. He shot Jack Reacher. He shot last year along with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I mean, his credits just go back all the way to the late 60s. So he is somebody who has been around for a long time.
Boy, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think we haven't talked about a film of his yet, and now I feel like we're shortchanging him a little bit, because this film is. I mean, one of the lovely things about this film, it feels like one of his.
We did talk about The Natural.
Oh, you're right, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, then we're not shortchanging him completely.
Yeah, he does good work.
See The Natural, footnote. All right. So this film, kind of my final comments. I love this film. I love that we're talking about this film. It's a nice one to have in the collection, and I feel like I watched it with some sort of renewed eyes. I was not. My memory of it was that it was slower. It was a bit of a bore. The first time I saw it, and that it just didn't move on fast enough. I think I was younger and probably in a hurry for something else the first time I saw it, and this time I really sat down and just let it kind of wash over me, and I think it's left me with a very favorable impression of the film, of as I said in the beginning, the painting that it creates for me is really wonderful, and it means so much more to know, to understand more about Peter Sellers and his role in getting this film. You know, the importance of this film to him as a personal production, not just as another piece of a career. I think it lends great credibility to the work for me. It's much more a work of passion, and I love it. I loved watching it. It didn't feel long. It didn't feel. It didn't even feel particularly dated, as I said. I mean, I think a lot of that was handled by Peter Sellers, but you know, it's a '70s film that I think it holds up remarkably well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, his dedication to get this made, I mean, really is the reason that he stuck with it for 9 years. I mean, the book came out in 1970, and you know, he had gotten Hal Ashby on board, and the two of them fought to find funding for this for 9 years, and it took a long time, but they finally did, and you know, it paid off. I think this is just an absolutely fantastic film. It always strikes me as funnier than I remember every time I watch it. There's just so many things that I just end up laughing out loud about. It really just is a film that always stands out every time I watch it, and every time I watch it, it just makes me want to go watch it again.
I totally agree. It's so dry. I feel like I laugh in the wrong places, but it's only because I'm laughing just a few seconds too late. So.
Well, and it's because the way he delivers stuff. I mean, it all comes across in this way where nobody in the movie, in the context of the story, is really sure how to take it. But as outsiders to the film, I mean, it's very easy to laugh at some of that stuff because, you know, Sellers just brings this character to life.
He really does. It is a really well executed film. I say we should rank it.
Let's rank it. Just real quick, I didn't find any numbers on this except that it made about $30 million in 1979 dollars. So that is almost $100 million in today's dollars. So I don't know what it cost, but it did pretty well for itself.
Holy cow! I just made the connection that Caleb Deschanel is Emily and Zooey Deschanel's dad.
Connection made.
Check.
Mind blown.
I just watched The New Girl today. That makes it makes more sense to me.
Wow. I wonder if they were on set. Were they born?
I don't watch the Bones thing though.
No.
All right. So Flickchart. People, you know, you should go to flickchart.com and you should friend us, flickchart.com/thenextreel. That's where you can find our the list of all of the films that we have talked about and our stack ranking of them.
Yes, indeed. Here we go. Being There or Inside Man? Being There.
Yeah, all right. Being There.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Being There or World War Z?
Being There.
Excellent. Being There or All the President's Men?
All the President's Men.
Another Jack Warden movie.
Mm-hmm.
I might say Being There. I know I could go either way on this one, so I'll go All the President's Men. That's a really tough call.
I know.
Being There or Run Lola Run?
Oh, Being There.
That's absolutely Being There. Being There or John Carpenter's The Thing? Oh, a little Dysart.
Dysart on Dysart action.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Being There.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, yeah. Being There or The World's End?
Mm-hmm. Being There.
That's a really hard one.
I know. I actually could go either way.
I want to say The World's End, but I feel like I should say Being There. Just
I don't know that that'll hold up under the pressure of history.
I don't either, but we're going Being There for now. Being There or City of God?
Wow.
These are tough fights.
I'm going to say City of God.
See, I think I'm still going to go Being There. Come on, Raphael.
I'm going to cut you. Okay. I mean, I'll give you Being There. Both of the films had a big impact on me. I think City of God had had a bigger impact on me just, watching it more critically this time, the journey of those kids. Mm-hmm. Those kids in that place at that time. But I'll give you...
He takes a remote control and clicks it at a gang. Joseph, he's trying to change the channel to something more appealing.
Disco Zarathustra.
All right, 17 out of 130.
Nice. Nice placement.
That is a pretty good placement. Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Next week, we are going to finish up our Richard Dysart series, and we're going to talk about the fantastic Pale Rider.
Pale Rider. Just when you say fantastic, like, is it really? I mean, give me a gut ranking. Is it better than being there? Pale Rider versus being there?
No, it's not better than being there.
All right.
I like Pale Rider. I don't think it's. I think between this and Outlaw Josie Wales, which we talked about last year, I would do Josie Wales over Pale Rider. But I do like Pale Rider.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just in terms of a Clint Eastwood piece, The Nameless Stranger. I like it.
Preacher.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
All right. Hey, this was a treat. Always is.
Yeah. It's fun talking about good movies.
No, this was a good one. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to Steve Smart's choice for the listener's choice coming up in 2 weeks. So make sure you check your feeds this weekend. We're going to be doing again Jack Reacher Shadow
Recruit
Nerd. With the film board, can't wait to see that. Or maybe some of you can. We'll see. This weekend, next Real Film Board.
Shadow Nerd. A whole new spin on that movie.
That's the truth. I gotta go to bed.
Are you going to do another drum roll?
That's not nice. Sometimes it's nice to bring that back. Sometimes it's just mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Back to the foolish drowning experience that I just had. I don't know why you bring that up. You must hate me.
I'm not nice.
'Cause you're a hater. Pretend the trailer is running right now.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
Movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.